You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another controversial episode of Ask Drone U. I am your tenacious loudmouth.
Full of good information, and I'm Rob, and we are glad that you're with us. We look forward to spending a few minutes with you, and we know that your time's valuable, so we're going to try to make the absolute most of it.
For sure. I was interested at what label you were going to give yourself.
Oh, no labels.
Wise old man? I don't know. Just kidding. He's not
Ouch.
old. He's not old. All right. Yeah, we're really excited about today's question about drone jobbing companies, which is really interesting because, you know, everyone went to that. I'm not even naming the conference because I think it's so terrible, but everyone went to that conference in Vegas a couple weeks ago. And I think the main news out of that conference was how many companies were folding. You know,
Really?
Intel's team gone.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what was it? PH, you know, their whole drone jobbing company, they purchased, I think they purchased droners.io, I can't remember, and the issues that they're going through. And it was interesting because it seems like a lot of companies who have tried to aggregate drone jobs are really falling off quickly. And yet Dronebase, which this question is about today, has really stood the test of time.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting as we get into today's questions about drone aggregator companies and how, as a DSP, in order to, well, first of all, you got to ask yourself, do you really want those same clients? And then the second question is how do you, if you do want them, how do you educate and gain those jobs? So, because there's been
a tough question.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I think today is a really good opportunity to bring up a pressing question that I have had for the community. I think, and I'm really interested in people's feedback on this, because there was a Dronebase job that was given to one of our Drone U members, and essentially, if that member would have followed the FAA's guidelines, they wouldn't have been able to do the job.
That's an issue.
That is an issue. So essentially, this drone job was to take footage of a recent celebrity who's been in the news and their home in Santa Fe. And long and the short of it is that if you're following FAA rules and you cannot get on this person's property, you'd have to fly from the road. Well, to fly from the road to the home is a solid 1.5 miles or 2 miles, if not more. And the person still did the job. But I have a real crisis of conscience with this particular issue because privacy rules are very clear, cut, and dry in the United States, right? They have, I mean, his property is far off the road. People are not allowed to, you know, be on his property and fly drones. And there's no way to legally fly a drone from a public area or any area adjacent to this ranch and be able to get photos legally of that house. So were they violating privacy law? No, but they violated FAA law to get the photos. And in my eyes, is that a privacy violation? Because privacy, right, you don't have a reasonable right to privacy if you're outside your house. But if you situate your house in such a way that it's not accessible, you know,
Through legal
means, and someone breaks those legal means to then get that photo, is that a breach of privacy? This is a question I want to bring up with my father, who could really bridge these different legal issues together.
Yeah. So is the point that you're making is that they were beyond line of sight? Is that?
Yes, 100%
Okay.
they were beyond line of sight. Like, for sure, no questions asked. But so here's the thing. Privacy law says if I take off from a public position and I fly to someone's house and take a picture, that's okay, right? But the issue here is the person had to break FAA rules to fly beyond line of sight to be able to take a picture of that house. Is that a breach of privacy? Like, because
it's an interesting question, because obviously there's one issue, which is the FAA rule, but then you're saying, does that then lead to a privacy issue, somehow create a connection there, a correlation there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
You know, it's going to be really interesting, too, when celebrities wise up and they start putting clear plastic poles around their property with clear plastic fishing line. So you can't see the line, you can't see the wall, but if you fly a drone, you're absolutely screwed. This is how Disney figured it out. And I'm just waiting for someone to run into this issue. I have to say, this particular pilot who's a Drone U member, I respect the guy. He did the job, but I was just like, you know what? If I spent all that time and money to make myself inaccessible, I'd be absolutely livid. Like, I would go after that person personally, financially, in every way possible.
And probably would be successful based on the
for sure would be successful.
You painted, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I actually asked I did talk briefly about this with my dad, and he was like, well, you could just nail him on this, and this. He's like, I wouldn't even focus on all that crap. I'm like, yeah, but that's the crap that I have the issue with, connecting the dots here.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, you could fry the guy on all these other things, though. So... Now,
more than one way to fry a guy.
Yeah, but okay, let's get to this question because, drone jobbing and aggregators, it's a great way to get your feet on the ground. It's a great way to get started. But what happens when we're now dealing with more technical jobs for technical companies, and Dronebase is throwing these jobs out to just any old, drone pilot Yahoo flying drone deploy with no GCPs? You know what I mean? Like, these are the type of issues where not only can Dronebase, but the pilot can run into significant liability issues.
Interesting. Well, I have a perspective that might surprise you a little bit. So let's listen to the question and we'll get into it.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Rob. This is Chucky from San Diego again. Thanks for answering my question on the 5G spectrum analyzer. That helped a lot. Paul, I know you talked about Dronebase in the past, and I'm really concerned. I'm trying to do things the right way. By the way, I will be taking your mapping course in December in San Diego, and I will be doing the ASPRS certification in Vegas this October. My question is, Dronebase, are they going to mess things up for the industry? Because, I'm doing the mapping, I'm doing the 3D modeling, and I'm doing everything the right way. And I'm just concerned whether or not Dronebase will try to, I know they're trying to enter that market and try to lower the pricing for what should be charged for this service. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that. I'm really concerned about them. And I just wanted to see what you guys think. Thank you for what you do. And I look forward to seeing you in December. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you, Chucky. Appreciate the question. And I like the way that you phrased the question and the points that you brought up. Also, like that you're going to be in San Diego. We look forward to seeing you there. That's awesome.
I think you're going to really enjoy it.
You are definitely going to enjoy it, and you're going to come out of there ready to fly. So, I don't know, I think we kind of know your thoughts, right? But do you want to go into this a little bit?
Well, there was a post that came up in the Drone U community yesterday where someone was posting about a mapping job from Dronebase and looking at what the client was looking at versus what Dronebase was prescribing. I literally wrote as a comment, let someone else take this and let them fail. Because when you're asking for this specificity and this technical depth on a mapping project, you cannot have someone just go out there and fly a freaking drone deploy mission and think everything is going to be honky-dory. It's not. It's not. You could have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet off on the z-axis. And if they're trying to do volume calculations or any sort of calculation, they're going to run into problems quickly. And I think that
Or they're just going to have bad information.
Correct, which I think actually showcases a problem with drone jobbing companies and aggregators as a whole, which is they're trying to take on these more technical, hardcore jobs, but there's a huge problem with the drone jobbing industry, which is really vetting pilots and their true capabilities. In fact, with Drone Up and whatever they're trying to accomplish, man, keeping in their community, I am deeply concerned about the future of the jobs that they're giving out to people. But with that said, here's the thing, Rob. I think this is really showcasing a macro problem, right? We don't have highly skilled pilots. These drone jobbing aggregators are going after more and more technical jobs that sometimes require a licensed surveyor, frankly. I mean, it depends on the state heavily. And some of the jobs that have been posted in our community, I would say outright violate some of those rules, hands down, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I reached out to Nick Osgood on Facebook when this particular issue of privacy had come up. And I was disappointed that Nick didn't respond. Maybe he wasn't in a position to. I fully understand that. He might have needed to vet some sort of answer. But I would say that, I think Dronebase overall has good intentions. I think
so.
I think it's a great way for people to get started up in the industry, and it's paid practice in my opinion. But that being said, when we start getting into these more technical jobs and the instructions that they're giving, at least that I've seen, definitely raise some red flags, Rob. They definitely do. And it also raises some red flags about how they're vetting these pilots and their knowledge and capability to deliver said deliverables. And I think that also, again, showcases an overall problem in the industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. But the other thing that I think about this whole scenario and these drone jobbing boards and this one in particular is that what you're seeing is capitalism.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And so even when Chucky says they're not charging what they should be charging, well, ultimately, the way that I see this is that right or wrong in terms of just do we agree with the path this is going and do we like it? If people are willing to pay what they're willing to pay and you can find people to do the jobs, I guess what I'm saying is that we're just going to have to wait for this to flush out.
Well, I think we're also in the process of it flushing out as well.
I think we are too.
With some of the other companies, we're already seeing systemic failures with those companies. So
exactly, and that's why. So if we educate ourselves, number one, we educate the public, we educate our clients, we make sure that we are going to do like the job that you just mentioned, and they're starting to get more technical and they're starting to be done by people through some of these job boards that are not capable and therefore they're putting out crappy work. That won't continue. The market won't let that continue. And so you keep doing everything you're doing, Chucky, going to the classes, getting better, getting certified in the various ways that you can, finding the people that are willing to pay for it. And there will be more and more opportunity for you as these other so-called mappers are flushed out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that takes some time, and especially in a new industry where there's so much of a lack of knowledge and understanding about how all this works and what is actually required to make something like what we're talking about making, and that people learn about when they were in Denver on your class. It's crazy the kind of depth and information that
I'm glad you got to see that, by the way.
I am too. And frankly, I now feel for the students because in a good way, because they're getting so much information, and believe me, we're going to help them make sure that they are able to integrate that into their businesses. But the kind of work they're putting in to become good mappers is intense.
Oh, for sure.
It's intense.
It's not easy. And it's not easy to be good at it.
Right.
And to be great at it is extremely difficult.
It is.
But possible.
It is possible. And are there pilots that are willing to do some of this stuff? That's the other side of it in capitalism, right? There are pilots that are probably willing to do it for less via a drone base because they aren't good salespeople, for example, or whatever their reasons are. But I think in general, that they'll find out within that paradigm, they'll find out how much work it is, how much time it takes, how much education they're going to need because it's always changing, and they're going to have to stay up with the changes and the new opportunities and the new technologies and the new equipment. They're going to eventually realize they can't keep doing it for those levels of pricing, or they'll go out of business, or they'll just go out of business. And so keep doing what you're doing and know that you're going to get the opportunities that you need if you keep doing it the right way.
I couldn't agree more. I think the mapping, modeling, the drone aerial data acquisition industry rewards those who are very systematic. It rewards those who are willing to spend the time, who are not impatient. It rewards those people who understand that fundamentally they will work harder than everyone else around them. And if you're one of those people, gosh, there's a lot of opportunity for you. Now, with that said, there was a little point that I wanted to touch on because he said he's going for his ASPRS certification. For the fourth time, ASPRS, I'd love to have you on the show to talk about your UAV photogrammetry certification that has no qualifications online and very little detail, if none at all. This is a common thing because a lot of people keep asking us, do we go over some of the teachings of ASPRS? While ASPRS has a photogrammetry certification and they have a UAV technical example, certification, I still have to see a UAV photogrammetry certification, and I have yet to see the qualifications therein. There are some things that we do talk about in the mapping class that are ASPRS recommendations. That's very important for us to go over. But with that said, I have yet to see someone with a UAV certification from ASPRS unless they had gone to a commercial UAV conference like 2 years ago. So I have yet to see a system that actually like works on that. So I'm curious as to which certification he's really talking about, because man, I've tried to get those guys on the show so many times. And I'm just kind of sick of hearing about it. I'm like, when we actually see something in writing, I'd love to talk about it. Because I think
it's important.
It is important. Yeah, 100%. So anyway, I think the last point I want to make here, Rob, because I think it's really important, and I don't think we talk about this enough, but I think everyone needs to ask themselves this very important question when it comes to serving drone-based jobs. Are those the clients you really want to work for? Remember the client quadrant, right? We got we got four squares stack up next to each other, kind of like the four corners of the United States here.
But again, the only thing I would say to that is, again, that some of these folks, like we talked about in a previous show, they don't know what they don't know, right? So they see that as if not the way to go get somebody to do what they need. And so that's where you have to educate.
For sure. I think that's why it's so important that drone pilots are, in industry associations, they're in Chamber of Commerces, they're on the ground level educating people, because as soon as people understand how complex something like mapping is, and I mean, you could easily go to any person who's using Dronebase to do a map to simply say, well, how do you intend to verify the accuracy? And then just stay silent, because they're really going to struggle with that question. So,
most likely.
Anyway, but again, do you really want to work for that high maintenance, low profit client? Obviously, if you're just getting started out, sure, you have a great way to go get some jobs, but you got to be really careful. For all of our, I'll call them successful DSPs, this is not the type of business they're going after, period. So, because it's not the client they want to serve.
But some of those did start and do some jobs through Dronebase.
Vic
others,
was one of them.
Not just Dronebase, but some others as well.
Andrew Dean, another guy. Right?
That are doing very well.
Yep. But again, we have to be careful in saying that like those two examples are repeatable examples, because those two entities made a lot of money because of a lot of hailstorms that went through Denver, and Dronebase got all the jobs. Okay. Not a lot of hailstorms this year. So I don't want to promise people like, hey, these are two great success stories. Is this repeatable? No.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to say. I also don't want to dog on Dronebase, because I think that they give a lot of opportunities to people who traditionally don't have the confidence to sell themselves, or don't have the confidence to go out there and do it themselves.
Or don't have the time, or whatever.
But I think you really nailed it on the head, Rob. This is all going to flush itself out. Because at the end of the day, people are going to realize, managers who don't know what the hell they're talking about, and this is oftentimes at a lot of major, large-scale companies, this happens all the time. They really don't know what they're talking about. They present a data product, and their data scientists just go absolutely absurd. So
take our friend Vic and how busy he stays, and I promise you he's not cheap as a photographer.
No.
And everybody has a camera in their back pocket, right?
That is true.
It's because he's so good. And he's developed relationships.
Quality and relationships.
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh, I want to teach a business class at a college. Oh, wait. We already have one. On that bombshell, that's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
My name's Rob.
This is Ask Drone You.